We have Hang Seng, which is high by 0.6%.
Inflation. I can think of 3 possible scenarios for inflation.
People in the West would take a more broader macro perspective on India itself and not obsessed about an individual group, no matter how, of course, important it is to the economy.
That's the first take on the index. The Nifty is absolutely flat with a bit of a positive bias, you'd have to say, 10 points higher.
We expected the markets to be volatile and primarily driven by global flow.
Overall, frankly, if you see, I mean, these 40 apartments, the total value will be about 1,700 crores.
Job market continues to be very strong and quite resilient.
Flat on the benchmark indices, the Nifty is just down 9 points.
A large industry body is expected to meet the finance minister today. This is in relation to that very budget announcement.
With inflation softening and the US Federal Reserve also moderating the pace of its hikes, 70% of our respondents said they expect RBI to settle for a smaller rate hike of 25 basis points this time around.
We see month-on-month prices going up as it did in January. It will continue to do so in February and March.
As far as the Nifty is concerned, it has seen a sharp recovery from the lows. It's down 40 points as we speak.
Well, that was the day so far. A quick snapshot of what has happened and transpired. You're with us here on a fresh new edition of Closing Bell. We are coming to you from the CNBC-TV18 Motilal Oswal studios. I'm Prashant. With me, my colleagues Rima and Surbi in the studios, and Nigel, of course, is joining us from the newsroom floor. Guys, hi, good afternoon. Things are neither here nor there. We're down about 40, 45 points. Even 15 minutes back, it was looking a little more one-sided, right? I mean, the Nifty was down almost 100 points or so. But since then, there has been another bout of bounce which has happened. But consider this. This is the 4th session in a row in which we are basically within that huge budget day range, right? The high, the low, the day of the budget were dramatically different. The low was 17,353. And the high, of course, was some 500 points away. And we are, for the 4th day, within that range. So it's range-bound, to be sure. Bank Nifty, like the last 2 sessions, Friday and yesterday, is doing a little better than what the Nifty is doing. Let's see if that is the case by close as well. And I think the immediate resistance for both Nifty Bank and the Nifty itself is the 20-day moving averages. For the Nifty Bank, that comes in, I think, at about 41,700 something. And for the Nifty, that's at about closer to 17,900, which is about 200 points away on the Nifty as well. So that's the immediate resistance, well advertised. We've been talking about that. Autos, FMCG, metals are the top losers, and real estate is the sole gainer. So it's more red than green, and that shows up in the market breadth as well. And of course, I mean, the big global cue is the fact that the Fed chair will speak. And I think it'll be important because markets have gotten a little perturbed, disturbed by the shockingly strong labor market data we got on Friday. And that has changed things a little bit. It's pushed the dollar higher. It's pushed yields higher. It's pushed the NASDAQ and US equities down. If, the Fed chief speech kind of categorically sort of says, well, this is an overreaction, or the market gets a sense that this is what he thinks, I think the rally could resume. And of course, on the other side, we'll need to watch for comments of that kind as well. So that's a quick bit, and it's an interesting session lined up. Guys, hi.
Absolutely. The Jerome Powell speech is going to be top of mind for all investors today. And tomorrow, we've got our very own policy. RBI monetary policy will be tomorrow. But ahead of that, things are on the quieter side. As Prashant said, we have seen a bit of volatility, but very much in the trading range. It's 17,227 on the Nifty, down 35 points. Sensex has slipped about 180 points. Big boy Reliance Industries is struggling a tad bit today. Reliance Industries is down close to about 0.5%. Tata Steel continues to be the top Nifty loser. That's down nearly 5%. Hindalco is struggling in trade. That's lower by 4%. And some of the Adani Group stocks have now given up their gains. So pull up something like Adani Ports. Adani Ports was significantly higher in the afternoon around 11 o'clock. But since then, Adani Ports has trimmed some of its gains and now is only up 1.5%. There you have Adani Ports. Let's get that up for you on your screen. It slipped nearly 8% from the day's high. Adani Enterprises, on the flip side, continues to go strong.
Well, hi guys. Absolutely. He's speaking at the Economic Club of Washington, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, I was looking at that as well. I think markets around the world are watching for that speech with bated breath just to get the Fed chair's interpretation of that very strong jobs report that we saw. But anyway, coming back to the here and now, one thing that's noticeable in today's trade that's different from yesterday is the lack of mid-cap participation. Yesterday, remember, we had a pretty buoyant mid-cap market. None of that today. You're seeing some of them, of course, result reactions like LIC Housing Finance, Balaji Amines, Muthoot was down about 3 to 4%. Though the market read-through on Muthoot was not too bad. But anyway, these are some of the stocks that are on the way down. Paytm, however, is defying this trend. I thought it'll be interesting to put that stock up on your screen just for reference. Paytm doing very, very well. But otherwise, no taking away from the fact that the global rally has been put on hold. There's a bit of a pause there till we get more evidence tonight. And as a result, metals have been selling off big time. And then anyway, Nigel, I mean, metals had a double whammy of sorts, right? With Novelis and Tata Steel saying what they did in the third quarter. And to top it off, all the Fed concerns and the higher yields, metals basically leading the market down today.
Well, that's right. The metal started off on the back foot, and Tata Steel's commentary to us at around noon today, that's what led the stock to the low point of the day. So we'll get you tidbits into that conversation. But first up, a word on the index. Earlier today, the call was, in case you get a green opening, then don't buy into it. And that's precisely the way it's played out, because as we speak as well, we're down 50, 60 points odd. On the option side, 17,800 calls, 17,700 calls. Just take a look at the big open interest built up out there. Aggressive writing is what we're seeing at both those two strikes. So at higher levels, we're expecting some selling. However, what's giving you some bit of hope is that there is some put writing as well. 17,700 put, that's giving a glimpse of hope to the put writers. The premium out there is around 70 rupees odd. So those writers, they're looking to defend that level of around 17,600 odd. So that's where the support level comes in at. However, just going by the technical levels, the 20 DMA as well comes in closer to around 17,850 to 17,900. You'll require a bigger effort to get past that level. For the time being, it appears positioning is such that we don't get past that. If we can get past that and trade above that, then we are bracing for a big short covering bounce. Rima?
Okay, now let's tell our viewers what we've lined up on the show today. First up, we'll put the focus on the Adani Group. Vivek will discuss about the rebound that we've seen in the stocks today after the recent steep fall. We'll also be joined by Hemang Jania, Motilal Oswal and Rajesh Kothari of Alpha Accurate Advisors for a fundamental check on the markets. We'll also connect with the management of Motherson Sumi Wiring India to discuss their Q3 performance. Also, Jay Bala will be with us to discuss the technical trades.
Okay, before we get started, let's straight away get to Mitesh Thakkar for the strategies that you can perhaps look at in the last hour. Mitesh, good afternoon. What a choppy day. Narrow band at around 1 o'clock. It seemed like suddenly the market was making a decisive move down, then again a U-turn. How are you navigating this?
Good afternoon. Yes, indeed, choppy in a narrow way. And, we've kind of just traded in the range on the which was made on the 3rd of February. So we haven't really given much of a movement on the index. But I think we've been trading with some stock-specific biases, though I think I'm still hoping that if we start getting past 17,800, 850, I think that could start a mild pullback rally. But waiting for that. Till then, I think I have a buy on Motherson Sumi System. We were just mentioning the stock that's moved up very nicely in the last few days, still showing signs of uptrend to continue. And a stop loss of around 78.5 is what I would recommend for price targets of around 85 to about 86 on the upside. And the other one which I like for trading point of view is Petronet. Very strong price and volume action today. That's a buy with a stop at 216 for a target of 225.
Any thoughts on Kotak Bank, Mitesh? I've been hearing, this call to buy Kotak. How are the charts looking?
For me, I think the charts are turning very positive. The stock has corrected from 1982 as well as about 1700 and is now showing signs of a reversal. There is mild pivot at about 1800 levels, but I think it will go there and eventually, maybe after a few hours of struggle, clear that and head towards 1840, 1850 to begin.
All right, fair enough. I think Kotak has, we put this chart out earlier. It's basically taken out it's like a trend, it's a falling trend line. It's kind of broken above it. But it broke above it on, I think, last Friday. Yesterday, there was a big reversal. And today, once again, we've climbed above it. So far, head above that head above water, above, trading above that falling trend line. Stocks up about 1.7%, 1776 or so on Kotak Bank. Now, Adani, of course, is the story which continues to be the big one. We have seen sharp rebounds in some of these stocks. Vivek is here, just kind of putting all of the stock price movement, news flow in terms of earnings, etc., together for us. Vivek, over to you.
Well, that's right. Despite the volatility that we have seen, actually, if you're talking about some of the stock moves, especially from recent lows, there has been quite a sharp up move in some of the stocks, especially if you're talking about the stocks that are present in the F&O segment as far as the Adani Group is concerned. So Adani Enterprises up over 75, almost 80% higher from the recent intraday low is the one that we are talking about. Adani Ports up over 45%, Ambuja Cement up over 20%, and ACC up over 17%. From the recent intraday lows. As far as the cash segment is concerned, today a lot of the stocks that were earlier posted on the lower circuit today managed to hit their upper circuit and once again saw a steep sell-off. So the volatility as far as the cash segment is there continues. Now talking about the operational results that have come in Q3, Adani Transmission delivered a strong operational performance. Profitability went up almost 75% on a year-on-year basis. Adani Port some time ago delivered its results. While it was a miss as far as our estimates were concerned, management reiterated its full-year guidance as far as the revenue as well as the EBITDA numbers were concerned. A couple of other stocks will also be declaring their results today. So Ambuja Cement, Adani Green as well as NDTV. We are watching out for those results. Yesterday, some positive news flow coming in. The promoters said that they are going to reduce the pledge shareholding in 3 group companies. So Adani Ports, Adani Green and Adani Transmission, you're going to see pledge or promoter pledge shareholding come down quite significantly. And very importantly, tomorrow, Ambuja Cements post today's earnings will be having an analyst and an institutional investor call tomorrow, where Karan Adani, the chairman of as well as the of ACC as well as the director, Ajay Kapoor, the CEO of the cement business, and Vinod Baheti, the CFO of the cement business, all of them will be present and will be answering investor queries.
All right, Vivek, thank you very much. The Adani issue, of course, is being addressed in the stock markets, as Vivek said, but it's also coming up in the parliament. Let's cut across.
Many years ago, when Narendra Modi ji was the Chief Minister of Gujarat, and when most of India's business was asking questions of the Prime Minister, was against the Prime Minister, one man stood shoulder to shoulder with the Prime Minister. He didn't back down. That's commendable. It's not a joke. He was loyal to the Prime Minister. And what did he do? He helped Mr. Modi construct the idea of resurgent Gujarat. Right? The idea that you bring these businessmen together, and you call it resurgent Gujarat, vibrant Gujarat, they're both. And he was the backbone in setting up that group of people. Okay? And the result of that was tremendous growth of his businesses in Gujarat. Expansion of his businesses. I think then the real magic starts. जब प्रधानमंत्री जी दिल्ली आते हैं और 2014 में असली जादू शुरू होता है। मैंने कहा कि 2014 में वो 609 नंबर पे थे, कुछ ही सालों में वो दूसरे नंबर पे पहुंच गए। कैसे पहुंचे? मैं आपको, बहुत सारी इंडस्ट्रीज में काम करते हैं, मैं आपको 2-3 इंडस्ट्रीज का उदाहरण दे देता हूं। एयरपोर्ट इंडस्ट्री की बात, एयरपोर्ट्स की बात करते हैं। कुछ साल पहले सरकार ने हिंदुस्तान के एयरपोर्ट्स को डेवलप करने के लिए दिया। नियम था, there was a rule that anybody who does not have prior experience in airports cannot be involved in development of these airports. नहीं गलत नहीं बोल रहा हूँ आप बैठ जाइए
अडानी के डिफेंस में आ गए सर
देखिए अरे माननीय सदस्य प्लीज मेरी बात सुनो
तो
एक मिनट मेरी बात सुनो ये एक मिनट बात सुनेंगे ये संसद है अपन किस दिशा पर चर्चा कर रहे हैं ये देश देख रहा है हमें राष्ट्रपति अभिभाषण पर चर्चा करें तो उचित रहे बाकी आपकी इच्छा है स्वतंत्र अभिव्यक्ति है मेरा मानना ये
तो
अपन एक विषय पर ओके
तो
आपको
तो रूल था नियम था
हाँ पॉइंट ऑफ ऑर्डर किस पे है ये
सर कैसे
एयरपोर्ट का प्राइवेटाइजेशन तो उनके समय हुआ ऐसी कोई पार्टी थी जिसका अनुभव था ये कौन सी बात कर रहे हैं
बोलिए ओके प्लीज ओके बोलने दे आपको नेता को
तो
बोलने दे आपको नेता
रूल था
प्लीज बोलने दे
रूल था कि अगर कोई एयरपोर्ट बिजनेस में नहीं था तो वो इन एयरपोर्ट्स को ले नहीं सकता था इस रूल को हिंदुस्तान की सरकार ने बदला किसी ने भी बनाया हो रूल था किसी ने भी बनाया हो रूल था रूल बनाया किसने बात नहीं है रूल बदला किसने बात है रूल बदला गया और किसके लिए किसने किया है रूल बदला गया
चलता रहेगा क्या सर
आप
रूल को बदला गया
अरे
सर बोलने दीजिए
करना चाहिए सर ऑथेंटिकेट करना चाहिए
चलिए आप
रूल बदला गया सर स्पीकर सर
Okay, well, there is the Adani issue in Parliament as well being debated, and we'll cut back in as that progresses. But a fair bit of disruption and the proceedings there. The market, by the way, has come back almost to the green. We are down only 7 points, 17,760. It's been that way for almost a fortnight now. Just 60, 70, 80 points. Swings, I mean, these are large swings which happen in a matter of 30, 40 minutes. And I think the same has played out once again on the upside from the lows. Hemang Jani is with us, strategist at Motilal Oswal Financial Services. Hemang, good to have you with us here. Thanks very much for your time. Your thoughts, Hemang, on just two names. One is Tata Steel, which of course is under pressure. And then there is Hindalco, which is also selling off. Of course, both have reported earnings as well. The dollar is higher a little bit. Just your thoughts from here for both these names.
Yeah, good afternoon, Prashant. I think in case of Tata Steel, it was pretty much expected that the Europe numbers will not be that impressive. But I think what disappointed the market was the India standalone EBITDA per ton, and the fact that US we have this inflation print will take about a week's time. We don't have any incremental triggers coming from China side. So given this numbers, the stock may remain slightly subdued. By the way, the con call is underway. It was to start at 2 o'clock. So depending upon what sort of guidance or outlook the management gives for the next quarter, that would be an important monitorable. But given this entire development, the stock may remain subdued. It may not correct much because once you have some positive trigger, typically metal stocks bounce back also equally sharply. So that is as far as Tata Steel is concerned. I think in case of Hindalco, definitely we feel that this Novelis numbers and the aluminium outlook has not been that negative. I think there is an overreaction when it comes to the stock price. And given the strong demand for the auto and the beverage can business which is there, we think that Hindalco should be relatively better placed. So these kind of a deep correction should be used as a buying opportunity. We have a strong buy call on Hindalco with a 20% kind of an upside.
Okay, all right. Well, Hemang, just hold that thought. The problem is with both Hindalco's, Novelis and Tata Steel is, for the next few quarters, things will be weak. In fact, though the con call is going on currently, we are at CNBC-TV18 did have a chance to catch up with Mr. Narendran, and we tried to squeeze out a couple of numbers from him in terms of a guidance on the India EBITDA per ton as well as the Europe EBITDA per ton. Let's hear out what he had to tell us.
So you will see the negative EBITDA that we are seeing in Europe in Q3 reduce in Q4. We are not fully out of the woods yet, because the demand in Europe is still a bit fragile.
Hopefully by the first half of FY24, Europe moves into the green.
Absolutely, that's what we hope.
The India EBITDA per ton then from around, this 10,500 rupees per ton, we could add a little bit to that. That would be basically the increased prices of around 1,500 rupees. And maybe some cost benefit as well, given that operating leverage will pick up. You have the export market as well. So do we work with the EBITDA per ton in that vicinity of around 12,500 rupees per ton at current reckoning?
I don't want to give you a specific number, but yes, things will certainly improve because the prices are going up and the costs are stable, if not going down. Also keep in mind, Nigel, that Q4 volumes will be higher than Q3 volumes, both in India and in Europe. Despite all these challenges and the bad set of numbers, if you see the debt has stayed where it is at 71,000 crores, it has not gone up. This year, obviously, we also had to contend with the 12,000 crore acquisition of Nilachal, plus a lot of money which got stuck in working capital because of high input costs as well as the stock buildup in Netherlands. So we'll be releasing that cash for next year. Obviously, next year is a year when we'll get back on track and we want to continue with our focus on debt reduction.
Three big numbers coming out of there. The EBITDA per ton in Europe, where it will come down to around $50 per ton in terms of a loss, and a couple of more quarters of pain before they move back into the green. For the India business, from around 10,500 rupees, it could potentially go to around 12,500 rupees. And no big debt reduction is what we could see in FY23, but in FY24, $1 billion is the run rate they would like to go with. From the old economy, though, let's talk about some new age stocks. Paytm is buzzing and trained. Abhishek is with us to tell us what's aiding that rally. Abhishek.
Well, the company did have a con call in which the key highlights are that they expect the long-term payment process margins to stabilize around 5 to 7 basis points. So they see massive growth in subscription business, and there is massive opportunity in that segment for the company going ahead as well. The device run rate is about 30,000 every month, which is expected to improve further as and when the headcount actually increases for the company. So the financial services revenue now contributes about 22% of the overall revenue and is expected to improve going ahead as well. The guidance for lending business is that it will have a growth of 20 to 30% on a quarter-on-quarter basis. So it's on a sequential basis that they will see a growth of 20 to 30% over there. The company is planning to launch a UPI Lite app which will allow instant small value UPI transactions to take place. So there is potential for 10 crore merchants as well as 50 crore payment customers in the near term as well. We also have another development which has taken place. Now, industry sources have told CNBC-TV18 that MEITY is likely to send a list of digital lenders to be removed from the Play Store and Google as well. So they have recently blocked about 138 betting and 94 loan apps with China links for their alleged involvement in money laundering. So both these two developments have been working in favor of Paytm in trade today. Back to you.
Okay, got that. Thanks very much for the details, Abhishek. By the way, while we talk about Paytm, don't lose sight of banks and what banks are doing. There's a dramatic recovery underway on the bank Nifty. Recovery would be a mild word, actually. Now the bank Nifty is leading the charge, and there's a significant amount of traction, days high on that index. And it's pretty much all the biggies. They're lined up on top. Look at Kotak or IndusInd for that matter. Even SBI is now positive, about 0.5% higher. So very interesting moves in Bank Nifty. By the way, Fitch issued a statement a couple of minutes back as well. Again, pretty much reiterating that as of now, they don't see any immediate threat to the banking system or bank ratings because of the Adani exposure that some of these lenders have. So more reassuring statements coming in from some
Today
of the
is
rating
also
agencies.
the Bank Nifty weekly options
Weekly
expiry.
options expiry, yeah. So
Right?
I guess some of that impact is sort of beginning to
play out.
Yeah. So let's take the conversation to Hemang Jani. Hemang, thanks for being with us this afternoon. I do want to get your thoughts in on Paytm. I don't know if you could hear much of what Abhishek was saying, but the street seems to be impressed that however it's happened, it's profitability at least at the EBITDA front, and that's happened ahead of schedule. Your thoughts on the stock?
So, Surbi, I think a lot of positive in terms of the operating parameters that one is tracking, and most importantly, this operating profitability being reached much ahead of the guidance is definitely going to be viewed positively. Also, if you look at the the indications from the management in terms of focus on the subscription paying merchants, the lending business guidance of 20 to 30%. I think all this is definitely adding up, and this is happening at a time when the majority of the selling, has already happened. So I think the stock should stabilize. It's kind of providing good, 10-15% kind of a move. So from a retail client perspective, I think it opens up good opportunity, for short-term trading.
Hemang, out of time. Thank you very much for joining in. We need to slip into a very short break. On the other side, we'll also be joined by the management of Motherson Sumi Wiring India to discuss their Q3 numbers and the way forward. Welcome back. Let's get a corporate conversation going. It's a weak set of earnings from Motherson Sumi Wiring. The margins have come under pressure despite a 16% year-on-year growth in the top line. So margins have fallen by nearly 350 to 400 basis points. The CFO of the company, GN Goba, is now with us on the show now. Afternoon, and thanks so much for joining in. First, if you could explain what led to the margin drop on a quarter-on-quarter basis, what were the line items? And secondly, what is the outlook on margins in Q4? Does it stay at these current levels of 10.5%, or do you foresee an improvement or a decline?
Good afternoon. Thanks a lot for getting us on the CNBC. First of all, I think what is important is this is the year in which we have just bifurcated, but at the same time, the market has undergone a significant amount of change. You have seen a lot of new models coming, a lot of new products coming. So we got 11 new programs, either which were a full model changeover or a new programs altogether, which we have developed so far in these 9 months. In addition, of course, there have been few facelift. What it really meant that we needed to add capacity, both in terms of number of factories. We added 3 more factories, as well as added about 7,000 people, because as you are aware, wiring harness is a people's job where you need to get the people up front, train them, so that the launch by the OEMs is very, very successful. So it is to be seen that as a work in progress, wherein we have built capacity for the new models which are coming. Quarter 3, as the life has been traditionally weak because of less number of working days, and on the top there was a chip shortage challenge faced by some of the OEMs. We are very confident, we are very optimistic given the strong demand. As the supply chain becomes more and more stable, these capacity utilization will get only better. And therefore, you see that reflected in the better profitability.
Mr. Goba, some reference, numbers perhaps would help a little bit. By when do you see margins, say, get back towards the 13 to 14 mark? Is it going to take a couple of quarters, or do you see a quicker recovery than that?
First of all, as you know, as a group, we don't guide on margins. We work on return on capital employed with a group target of 40%, because the margins may not truly reflect the true profitability, given that when we start with the new products, it may start with a higher import content or just the plug-in of certain high-value parts. So therefore, we would like to see more and more localization in times to come. But at the same time, by Q1 of FY 23-24, we do see that the profitability will be better, as you have been seeing in the past, similar to those levels.
Okay. What's the current capacity utilization?
See, in terms of the newer plants, the capacity utilization could be somewhere in the range of 30 to 40% as yet. As we have said, we have increased our capacity by 25%, whereas the revenues would have gone up only by 15%. So the capacity utilization of the newer plant is much lower. And as we also are developing new products, we will continue to focus on adding new capacity ahead of the time.
All right, so thank you very much. Appreciate you joining in with that perspective. Thanks indeed, and good luck. Well, you know, with the Paytm, of course, is a stock which we've discussed with Abhishek and our guests as well, as they turn EBITDA positive before schedule. Zomato's founder, Deepinder Goyal, is also kind of put out a tweet. Actually, we should have that up for you, and this is interesting. You know, he says, congratulations, Vijay Shekhar Sharma and Paytm on becoming profitable. Sorry, a bit late to the party, but we were so busy working on our own profitability. Were you guys invited to the party?
No.
Profitability party?
Q1 FY24 is when they've guided for turning profitable at the EBITDA level. So I think that's when we should hope for a party from them.
Maybe they'll do it ahead of schedule as well. The market's taking very measured sips in this party, by the way. Yeah. Considering, I think the Paytm listing was 1950. The issue price was 2,000 plus, if I recall correctly. We're still sort of a long way off that. So measured sips, slow and steady.
No, I mean, you know, a step in the right direction, right?
Let's reply to that tweet saying we want to be invited to that profitability party.
Yeah, no, you know, it's interesting. This is the kind of FOMO we want, right? You know, profitability FOMO, if I can call it that. Not exactly, of course, accurate, but just describing what the tweet really says. Now, Jay Bala of cashthechaos.com is with us. Jay, good to have you with us here. Thank you very much. So the market's down, what, 30, 40 points, but is it throwing up signals which makes you convinced of a directional kind of breakout one way or the other? You know, some believe that with all this price action, all the negatives are getting absorbed, right? So eventually this breaks higher. Would you agree with that view, or are you on the other side? Go on.
Thanks, Prashant. Thanks for having me on the show. I beg to differ. You know, I believe the worst is ahead for the market. And from an extreme short-term perspective, a break of 17,580, that will signal a test of the budget day low. And once the budget day low gets broken, we are likely to see an acceleration lower. And I would expect the markets to first test somewhere close to the September 30 low of about 16,750. And then go to somewhere close to 16,400. But, you know, there is no hurry to, preempt the market. Let the markets do what it's doing, and we just need to follow the markets as the markets unravel. And I think it's very unlikely this market will go beyond 18,000. And so watch out for the key levels that I've mentioned here.
Okay, all right, Jan, you've been maintaining that you believe that the worst is ahead for the markets and that 17,280 is important on the downside. If we break that, we'll slide lower. Plenty of indices I want to talk about, Jay. But what about the Indian rupee? You know, Prashant was making this point earlier that the dollar index has cooled off from around 115 all the way to around 104, 103 and a half odd. And it's come back from around 101 odd. But the Indian rupee is almost at its weakest levels. Where is that one headed? From 83, where are we going?
Yeah, see, the key level for the rupee is about 83.04. Once that level is taken out, we can expect a direct move towards 87. But there is a good possibility that we could see one more strengthening move for the rupee, and we could pull back towards 81 and then break above 83.05. So, you know, this structure is pretty similar to the Indian 10-year yields. You know, both of them are potentially forming a triangle, but, you know, we just needs to do one more leg down, only then it will be a triangle. But if the rupee were to break above 83.05, it will probably, in coincidence with the India 10-year yields, going past 745 bips and heading towards 790. And later on much higher to 850 bips. So, these are the key levels that I see for the rupee and the Indian 10-year yields.
Jay, you've already moved towards what I was going to ask you, and that's what's happening with bonds. Did I hear you say the Indian 10-year is going to 7.9 and then 8 plus? Wow.
That's right.
Okay, what's the time frame that you're looking at, and where would that put the US 10-year, which obviously after that jobs report, I mean, there was a very decisive move and it's sustaining above 3.5%.
Yeah. Very important points would be, the last 3 sessions from Friday to yesterday, and including today, we had very significant move in the US 10-year yields and the dollar. But we're just waiting for the dollar index to confirm a move past 105.63 dollar index cash. And then we'll see, we're probably headed to the next leg above 114. But the US 10-year yields has given a confirmation that the next leg up has started. And we are looking at somewhere close to 500 bips, maybe above that. And when it comes to the Indian 10-year yields, the time frame, once the yields cross 7.4, 7.45, the 7.90 will probably come in a much shorter time frame. The 850 bips that I'm talking about is probably in the medium to probably 6 months down the line. But the markets needs to do just a little more consolidation before it breaks above 7.45.
Jay, I just want to get back to the call about the Nifty. A breach of what level on the index on the way up will convince you that the bearish call is perhaps not working out and the markets are actually heading higher and one needs to course correct? What would be that marker on the way up?
Yeah, fair point. Very good point. The market needs to take out 18,300, 18,400. And that's, in my opinion, is a big stretch. And 18,201, that the high it made before the budget, even it's very likely that will not even get tested. The 18,000 high that we saw on the budget day, probably that itself will put a ceiling for the market. So to answer your question, 18,400 would tell me that the bearish case is not working out.
Varun Beverages, run us through the levels you're looking at there.
Yeah, FMCG has been one of the strongest pocket, Nigel, and Varun Beverages is one of the strongest stock there, along with another Radico. Yeah, that's in the FMCG index, and Radico is a bit late, so that's the reason why I'm choosing Varun Beverages. And probably FMCG is a defensive play too. So a stop below 1100, it has potential to scale fresh 52-week highs past 1575. If it does something very strong, swimming against the stream, it can probably even push somewhere close to 1750, 1900. But at the moment, I'm keeping it very conservative and thinking that it's heading to somewhere close to 1575. I want to add that since the overall trend, in my opinion, is negative, you want to be allocating 1/3 of your regular allocation.
Okay, all right. Thanks so much, Jay. So on an optimistic note, we'll end this conversation. But thanks so much for joining in, throwing some caution to the market setup, but you left us with one pick, that is Varun Beverages. For the time being, though, we'll slip into a short break. You come back, and as always, Nimish is waiting for us on the other side. He'll tell us what he's picking up in D Street Chatter. Our technical experts will be back with us to give us some buy and sell calls. Welcome back. You're tuned in to Closing Bell, and we are coming to you live from the CNBC-TV18 Motilal Oswal newsroom. Well, plenty is going on in the markets. We seem to be in a bit of a band, though, on the Nifty. So it's a good time to get into our special segment, D Street Chatter. Nimesh joins in. Nimesh, what are you picking up in terms of flows and market sentiment?
Hi, Nigel. So, been consolidating for the last many days, and that's been the trend today as well, though with a negative bias. Well, we saw intra-bit recovery in the last half an hour of trade, but I believe there's going to be a market at close sell basket at a leading FID. So the last 15-20 minutes could be quite volatile. Looking at the flows, technically 17,800 is acting as a very strong resistance. So that's something to watch out for if the market moves ahead from here. And in terms of sectors, while there is a bit of selling pressure in the metal names for the last couple of days, I guess some bit of reversal of flows in terms of buying flows into banking and especially into the PSU bank stocks. That's the overall flavor as far as flows are concerned. So 17,800 is a level to watch. But I guess today in the last 15-20 minutes, you're going to see some bit of a selling basket at the leading Friday.
All right, Nimesh, a couple of stocks, and I'm glad you joined in at this time because Prashant was just talking about taking a tweet from Zomato, who's congratulating Paytm on turning profitable. And Zomato's moved to the high point of the day, but Paytm's moved
at the days low.
But I believe that you have, you've got some chatter on that, and also. Interglobe Aviation, out there, the open interest built up is 20% in the last couple of days.
There is a reason for that as well.
So let's go ahead and tell us more.
So the first stock on my list today is Paytm. The stock actually has fallen from days high, and the strong indication is that there is going to be a large block in Paytm very soon, and maybe the private equity investor will sell out. So the 3-month lockup for that investor is already over, so the block can come anytime, and that's the reason why that stock has come off from the day's high. The second stock is Interglobe Aviation, which is Indigo. As Nigel pointed out, the open interest has gone up in the last 2 days, 20% higher. And while the quarter three was very strong, but the stock has fallen from the highs, largely in anticipation of a large block deal in Indigo as well. Remember the erstwhile promoters, one of the promoter entity sold 2.8% stake way back in September, and there was a 5-month lockup. So the lockup gets over today, and that's the reason why there is an anticipation that you're going to see a large block in Indigo going forward. So that's the second one. The third stock is SIS. Again, SIS had a very soft quarter. Q3 was quite subdued, and post that it's been consolidating. But now I believe, as far as SIS is concerned, a large selling pressure from a leading FII seems to be out of the way, and they've been a big seller in the last few days. And the last stock is Concor. After a long time, this is back in the list as far as buying is concerned. So after a dip correction in the last couple of weeks, at these levels, some bit of buying interest is back in Concor as well. But the big chatter in the dealing rooms in the last couple of days has been some large blocks which are going to happen. So I highlighted Indigo and Paytm, and yesterday there was a big buzz which I highlighted, which is on Sundaram Finance.
Lots of blocks and other interesting chatter, Nimesh. Thanks very much for that. Paytm is almost 5%, 6% off the day's highest point. And Zomato, as Nimesh was pointing out, Nigel was pointing out, has actually moved up, since that point that we highlighted that tweet. Mitesh is back with us for a quick check on things in terms of what to buy or sell today for a reverse trade tomorrow. Mitesh, hi. What do you have?
Prashant, buy on Zydus Life. I think that's been a stock which has done extremely well and still showing very promising patterns. Zydus Life is something which I would recommend as a BTST kind of a trade. Keep a stop just below levels of 474.5 and a target of 490 for tomorrow can be looked at. And Tata Steel, we had earlier we had a sell on JSWC. Tata Steel, I think after numbers has been disappointing and it's closing with a negative setup. So STBT here with the stop at 113.5 for targets of 109.
Okay, got that, Mitesh. Thank you very much for some of the calls there as we get into the last few minutes of trade. Rajesh Kothari is joining us on this leg of the show to give us his sense on the market. Rajesh, thanks very much. Good to have you on as always. I just want to get your sense on the telecom space first before we talk about anything else, with two reasons. Because one, we had the big Vodafone Idea news come in just yesterday, and today we're awaiting numbers from Bharti Airtel as well. Rima's poll tells us that maybe, average revenue per user will inch up a bit, maybe about 1.8 to 2% or so. How are you looking at telecom? Would you look at, any exposure here?
I think telecom is an interesting juncture. If you ask me, we are holding some stocks in our portfolio, and I think the consolidation has already happened. And from here on, I would expect that the ARPU and the profitability for telecom players will move up, and that basically will lead to definitely better earnings growth over the next 2 to 3 to 4 years. The only risk in this sector is the regulatory changes, and at times the competitors becoming very aggressive in terms of the pricing. So those are the two important things to monitor for. But for time being, if you ask me at current valuations, we are quite positive on the companies which we are holding in our portfolio, and I think it is rightly positioned for the better growth over the next few years.
Ambuja Cement standalone numbers flashing on your screen. Net profit at 369 crore. This is coming in ahead of what the street was anticipating. Revenues too slightly ahead, about 60 crores, ahead of what the street was anticipating. So a bit of a beat on the revenues, but a bigger beat coming in on the profitability. Profits, in fact, are about 20% higher than the consensus expectation, the CNBC-TV18 poll. Rajesh, afternoon. Rima here. I remember in our last conversation, you said that you like specialty chemicals. You've been bullish in that space for the last couple of years. You like auto ancillaries. How have the numbers been for the companies that you've tracked so far? Did it make you add to your positions, or were there any misses because of which you decided to trim your holding?
No, the theme remains same. I think in auto and auto ancillaries, till now the numbers which companies have announced, they are more than what anybody thought of. We are holding in our portfolio, for example, Maruti Suzuki, super numbers, super surprise. We are also holding Ashok Leyland in our portfolio. Again, very good numbers by Ashok Leyland as well. So these two companies' numbers are being super. We remain positive on auto and auto ancillary as a theme. On specialty chemical side, we hold SRF in our portfolio and Navin Fluorine. SRF numbers are already announced, and again, a very good positive surprise on specialty chemical space, particularly from SRF. The capex stream continues to remain strong for the overall specialty chemical sector, and we remain positive on stock specific. Of course, within the sectors, you need to be more bottom up opportunities, and then you need to take the right position. So that's where we are. Kindly put a disclaimer because we are talking about stocks, because the companies which you mentioned, we are holding in our PMS for our clients.
Okay, all right. Just a quick word on Ambuja Cement's numbers. The top line beat that has come about is because volumes are much higher. It's coming at around 7.7 million tons, which is much better than what the street and we were working with. We were working with around 7.5 million tons. So the top line beat has further percolated down into an operational beat as well. And the EBITDA number is looking quite strong. So good growth, 7.5% growth is what we have seen in terms of volumes on a year-on-year basis. On a sequential basis as well, it's up close to around 9%. And the street likes these numbers. They've also disclosed their cash balance. And as of now, they've disclosed the combined cash balance, which is close to 9,000 crores odd. That as well is a little bit comforting. We'll try to get you more details. But for the time being, these numbers look good and they go down as a beat. Well, we'll slip into a short break. You come back and, we'll try to run you through the final 10 minutes of trade. Welcome back. Well, the Ambuja Cement stock is doing well. It's moved to the high point of the day as we speak. There's no worries in terms of these numbers. It's an operational beat that's coming in there. The cash in books as well is intact. And the management committee says that they're on their way to expanding capacity. So the street likes that for now. The stock has moved to the high point of the day. On the EBITDA number itself, there's a beat out there. On the top line as well, that's 200,000 tons. Extra is what they've sold, 7.7 million tons odd. Rajesh Kotari is waiting by as well. Rajesh, what about these domestic themes? And in particular, if you have any view on Ambuja Cement. Remember, the deal was done at around 385 rupees. That's between Adani as well as the Wholesome Group. It's currently at that price itself after falling all the way to around 320. At current reckoning, your view?
I would refrain to give any stock-specific views. But in general, we remain positive on Indian cement industry, particularly because of the three reasons. One, the volume growth is going to start. That's good news because the real estate sector is doing reasonably well. And of course, the construction sector, backed by the government CapEx, is also doing reasonably well. Second important is, the overall the pricing discipline, which we expect that to continue. And third, of course, the most important thing is the cost per ton, because the energy cost is coming down, and that will also others well for the overall cement sector. So the volume growth is going to be good. The profitability per ton will also likely to improve over next 4 to 8 quarters, and therefore we believe the sector should do reasonably well with a medium-term outlook.
By the way, there's a I think investor call tomorrow, which will have the senior management of Ambuja join in and talk about the results, numbers, etc. That should be interesting to note as well. Lots of conversation around Ambuja in terms of what they especially will do on the capacity expansion front. Nigel was telling us earlier that the plan was to double the capacity, but will they now go slow with all that has transpired? So I think that'll be the number one apart from industry issues, but that's the company specific, the big one, which I think around which there should be a lot of conversation, really. 55 points lower is what we have on the Nifty, 17,708. Rajesh, we'll thank you here. Appreciate your time as always. Thank you for being with us here on CNBC. Let's just quickly start recapping things and see what, the close is going to look like. I think banks are having another, slightly better day as compared to what the Nifty will end around, or maybe similar kind of day. Yesterday they were, significantly better. Bank Nifty is doing better. It's about 0.25% higher. Sharp surge actually, which kind of tapered off into close. So the big gainers on the Nifty are Adani Enterprises with a 15% gain. So low today was 1435. It ends at 1800 bucks. That's a full 400 rupee plus recovery from today's low. So that's incredible. We have DRL at number 2 with a just under 2% gain. Adani Ports with about a 1 3/4% gain. And there is Kotak Bank, which ends about 1.6% higher as well. The big losers are the two metal names, Tata Steel and Hindalco, with a 5 and 4% cut respectively. Rima.
While the mid-cap index ends absolutely flat, the advanced decline ratio had more losers this time than gainers. The big winners, Paytm, buying scene for the second day in a row. In a span of 2 days, the stock has moved up from levels of 525 to now almost 590. The tweet from Dipinder Goyal, the CEO of Zomato and the co-founder, where he says Zomato is working on its own profitability. The stock spiked in a matter of minutes, was 48 rupees and now above 50 rupees on that. On the losing side, Balaji Amines ends in the red. Weak numbers, margin contraction. Apollo Tyres, where the management guides for weakness in the European business exports in the first half of this year. Muthoot Finance, numbers were okay, but the loan growth was muted, just less than 1% on a quarter-on-quarter basis, and Muthoot Finance sees a cut of close to about 2.5%.
Not much on the mid-cap screen on the upside, really, today. Paytm we've spoken about, and then there was Zomato, thanks to that tweet coming through and perhaps the market getting excited, 5% up. And on the Adani Group, Adani Enterprises has closed out positive. Ports, of course, has been positive, as we've been telling you. But quite a few of the other stocks, Adani Green, Total Gas, Adani Power, these have ended down about 5% each as we look at it. And some more cuts on a V-Mart, on a Monte Carlo, Balaji Amines. So some of the weaker result reactions also playing out. All in all, a very lackluster kind of a day, whether you're looking at the mid-cap market or the Nifty. But I guess investors will take heart from the fact that at least there was no caving in. Around 1 o'clock, it seemed like there was a big move down. But from there, at least, we saw some recovery to close at the flat line.
Absolutely flat, right? On the benchmark, on the sensex particularly, the Nifty was down 45 points. What will you focus on post-market hours? Well, two big earnings, Hero MotoCorp and Bharti Airtel. And then you've got the Jerome Powell, speech, which will be tracked particularly closely after the shockingly strong jobs data on Friday. There goes the closing bell. The Nifty ends above 17,700, a cut of 50 points, a minor downtick of close to about 0.3%. The Nifty Bank outperforms today, ending in the green. With that, from the entire team of Closing Bell, thank you for watching. Need to slip into a very short break. On the other side, a roundup from the India Energy Week 2023. Also, Commodity Champions is lined up next.